Tonight in our in-depth coverage, it's on illegal immigration again, specifically children in our public schools. State Superintendent Ryan Walters wants to know how many illegal immigrants have kids in Oklahoma schools. Fox 23's Devin Lyon reports from the state capitol, where Walters and the Board of Education finalized that plan to send to state lawmakers.
So I'm going to just start off by being crystal clear. Our rule around illegal immigration accounting is simply that. It is to account for how many students of illegal immigrants are in our schools.
State Superintendent Ryan Walters and the State Board of Education want to ask parents to prove their own and their child's citizenship or legal immigration status upon enrolling their child into school. It's one of several administrative rules the OSDE approved and sent to the state legislature for further approval. It's also what brought in this crowd of protesters. Those rules were not approved without a hitch. There was back and forth between board members and Walters for clarity on this rule.
If the child, if they do mark that they're, not documented here, are they still allowed to attend school and get the same education as everyone else?
Correct. There's nothing in this rule that stops, a child from accessing a school, anything like that. This is simply data gathering and information gathering.
The state superintendent says he simply wants to track the data to know just how large the impact of illegal immigration is on Oklahoma schools. He says it will show where the needs are greatest in the state.
We want to make sure that all that information is gathered so that we can make decisions on where resources go, where personnel goes, and we can continue to make sure that Oklahoma is leading the country in education reform. But to do that, you have to have information.
He says it's not to initiate raids on schools or deny students their rights to an education, but if ICE, the FBI, or another law enforcement agency ask for the data, he says he would be obligated to provide it.
We will make sure that President Trump and his administration have this information, have the information they need. But listen, we want to make sure that every Oklahoma child is put in a position to be successful. This helps us do that.
For that to happen, this rule needs approval from the state House, Senate, and governor by May. Superintendent Walters has made statements in the past saying that he would allow Immigration and Customs Enforcement to do raids at Oklahoma schools. However, any operation from a law enforcement agency would require a court-signed order. Walters clarified with me today, saying that he would just cooperate with law enforcement if ever one of those court orders came about. In Oklahoma City, covering news that matters, Devin Lyon, Fox 23 News.
There was a major U.S. Supreme Court case back in 1982 that handles how children who are illegal immigrants are handled. Back in 1982, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in a 5-4 decision in the Plyler versus Doe case that states cannot deny a student a free public education based on their immigration status. The ruling established that undocumented children have the right to attend public schools because giving them an education would make them more productive contributors to American society. While the State Department of Education will ask for immigration status, they will have to overcome this ruling, likely at the U.S. Supreme Court, if they don't actually want kids in the class. The Trump administration says federal immigration authorities can now arrest people at churches and schools. Many of you have messaged about this on Facebook, and we want to give you some more details on this. This marks a departure from long-standing policy to avoid so-called sensitive areas. Acting Homeland Security Secretary Benjamin Huffman announced the change last week. It says the Trump administration will not tie the hands of law enforcement, but will trust them to use common sense in these places. Immigration and Customs Enforcement set a policy in 2011 preventing agents from arresting people in sensitive locations. The Biden administration issued similar guidance. Here is the note. This is expected mainly to be used in sanctuary cities who have in the past have hidden migrants in these places before. There are no sanctuary cities in Oklahoma, and there are no reports that any illegal immigrants are being piled into schools and churches here in Oklahoma for them to be hidden from ICE. No reports whatsoever we have been able to find. Any law enforcement agency looking to enter a school will have to have a signed court order. Are there illegal immigrants in Oklahoma public schools? Yes. Are they being specifically targeted right now? No. Time after time, we've brought you interviews and sound bites with Trump border czar Tom Homan, who is actually going on ICE raids himself these days. And he has said over and over and over again, there are plenty of criminal illegals who have committed violent crimes, and those are the targets right now and will be for a long time.
We arrested, I think we had a total of 7 sexual predators, sexual crimes against children. We had 2 illegal aliens convicted of murder that were released by that state prison back to the streets. So everybody we arrested in Chicago yesterday was a significant public safety threat. There were several collateral arrests that happened to be there when we arrested the bad guy. So this operation right now is concentrated on public safety threats and national security threats throughout the country. We will prioritize public safety threats and national security threats first. I don't think we arrested any families. We've arrested public safety threats and national security threats, bottom line.
Keep in mind, the Trump administration is also directing local law enforcement to no longer release illegal immigrants on bail for big things all the way down to small things as small as traffic violations. Illegal immigrants who come into contact with law enforcement will be reported to ICE even if they aren't convicted of a crime yet. Oklahoma Attorney General Gentner Drummond said right here on this very program that there are so many criminal illegals and national security threats, some of whom were released on bail from the Biden administration policies, that it could take years before there's even the thought of deporting children or grandma or abuela in separate operations.
They are scattered to the winds. And you know, these are not good people. Now, I have no indictment against any foreign-born person, but we have illegal actors in the state that we must detain, find, arrest, and deport.
We should note that in that same interview, Drummond said if anyone feels they are being racially profiled, they should contact his office immediately and it will be dealt with. People should not be worried right now about being pulled over and being asked for ID simply because of their skin color or assumptions about their status, especially if they are doing nothing wrong, which should also address some of these fake posts on social media about American citizens being pulled over and ID'd simply because of how they look or what neighborhood of Tulsa they are being found in right now. Everyone needs to take a step back and breathe for a second, no matter where you are at on this issue. This is Oklahoma. We are not Chicago or New York City. We are not a sanctuary state. We do not have sanctuary cities. There is law enforcement action happening here, but nowhere near the scale of what we've seen in the big cities. Our politicians are helping ICE, so the raids are not even necessary. We will report what happens as it happens. But in reality, folks, we are actually on the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to ICE and certain priorities right now. We expect to get more answers during a news conference about ICE operations with Governor Stitt tomorrow.